When the Vatican reached out and invited me to take part in the Jubilee for digital missionaries and influencers, I honestly had no idea what to expect. I figured I'd attend a few events and maybe even hear a few speeches, but I had no idea how deep, how personal, and how historic the experience would be. From staying at a residence normally reserved for clergy, to walking through hidden sections of Castel Gandolfo, to sitting in a closed-door meeting at the Vatican Secretariat of State, and even meeting Pope Leo XIV. This was unlike anything I had imagined. Well, my name is Michael Lofton. I'm a content creator, author, and a theologian. I founded the channel Reason and Theology on YouTube. I also serve as a professor of theology, specializing in the magisterium of the Catholic Church and church history. For years now, I've worked to help people make sense of Catholic teaching in a world where theology is often misunderstood or misrepresented, especially online. About a month ago, I got a phone call from a friend. He told me the Vatican was going to reach out to me and that I'd be invited to Rome for something called the Jubilee for Digital Missionaries. And sure enough, less than an hour later, I received that call. It was the Dicastery for Communications at the Vatican. They were inviting me to the Vatican to take part in the Jubilee, and to be honest, I was thrilled. For a long time, many of my viewers have said things like, the Vatican needs to talk to people like you. They need to hear what's really going on online. And this was the opportunity to do just that. So what is a Jubilee? Well, in the Catholic tradition, a Jubilee is a special holy year, a time of renewal, mercy, and pilgrimage. It's deeply rooted in Scripture and stretches all the way back to the Old Testament. It's a time the Church sets aside for grace, reflection, and spiritual revival. The Jubilee for Digital Missionaries is part of that. It's a recognition that the new mission field, the modern Areopagus, is online. Influencers, content creators, evangelists, all sorts of people were invited to come together, to be formed, and to offer something back to the church, their perspective. I was asked to get a letter of reference from my Metropolitan Bishop. I reached out right away, and by the grace of God, I received that reference almost immediately. And with that, I packed my bags, booked my flight, and set out for Rome. Now, what happened next was something I could never have scripted. So I landed in Rome with an open mind and a sense of mission. The Vatican had arranged for me to stay at the Domus Romana Sacerdotalis. This is a residence normally reserved for clergy visiting the Eternal City. It's a peaceful and modest space just a stone's throw away from St. Peter's Basilica, and it serves as a kind of home base for priests all around the world who come to Rome for ministry, rest, and pilgrimage. Now, I was humbled that the Vatican would welcome me into this space, someone who works not in a parish, but online. After dropping off my bags, I made my way to St. Peter's Basilica, and no matter how many times I've seen it in photos, nothing compares to standing there in person. I took a few moments to share my thoughts with my audience and to bring them into the moment, and also to explain why I came to Rome, not just for meetings, but for mission. From there, I visited the Colosseum, which is a powerful symbol of both suffering and victory. According to tradition, this was a place where early Christians were once martyred, crushed by an empire that thought it could silence its message. And yet, centuries later, that same empire gave way to the very church it once tried to destroy. I recorded a few reflections there, remembering the cost of discipleship and the strange irony of how time sanctifies what once tried to extinguish the faith. After a full day, I grabbed a bite to eat at a nearby restaurant and made my way back to the Domus to rest. The next day, the Jubilee for Digital Missionaries would begin, and I still had no idea what to expect. The first day of the Jubilee for Digital Missionaries began with a sense of anticipation. Now, I didn't know really what to expect, but what followed was far more than I could have imagined. We were welcomed by none other than Cardinal Pietro Parolin, the Vatican Secretary of State. Hearing directly from one of the church's highest-ranking officials reminded me just how seriously the church is taking its mission in the digital field. Next came Archbishop Fisichella, pro-prefect for the section on new evangelization. He spoke powerfully about the church's need to meet people where they are, not just geographically, but digitally, and to bring them to the truth without compromise. We then heard from Dr. Paolo Ruffini, the prefect of the Dicastery for Communication, and Monsignor Lucio Ruiz, the secretary of the same dicastery, and the very one who invited me to Rome. Their words emphasize something many content creators forget, that digital platforms are not just tools, they're spaces of encounter. Truth must take priority over algorithms. The truth must come first before growth. After the talks, I had the incredible opportunity to interview both Dr. Ruffini and Monsignor Ruiz, along with other key figures. It was a chance to ask questions and to reflect together on where the church is headed in the digital age. And later that day, I was interviewed by Rome Reports, as well as Catholic News Service, which is the official news agency of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. We need to say what is true, even if it's a hard saying. I mean, this is something that Jesus did, and sometimes he lost disciples, right? It was costly for him. But we still have to do it. So first and foremost, we need to ask the question, is this impactful? Is this constructive? Is this truthful? Not, is this going to get me more followers? It was humbling to share my perspective on what digital influencers should look like in our time. More than anything, the day was refreshing. It was a powerful reminder that while clicks, views, and subscribers come and go, truth must remain the foundation. And I was deeply honored to meet so many other creators, each bringing their own gifts to the digital vineyard. And I walked away from that first day renewed, grounded, and ready for what came next. During the Jubilee, a few of us content creators were given a great privilege, a visit to Castel Gandolfo, the historic papal summer home residence nestled in the hills just outside Rome. Even more remarkable was who welcomed us. Father Manuel Durantes, the rector of Castel Gandolfo, a deeply accomplished priest and one of the most gracious hosts I've ever met. Father Manuel gave us an exclusive tour, not just of the papal residence and the famous gardens, but also of a place few people have seen, Borgo Laudato Si. This area, transformed by Pope Francis himself, is part of a bold and prophetic vision. Named after the encyclical Laudato Si, this space is now dedicated to formation and ecological awareness, a place to explore the Church's call to the care of our common home. Father Manuel shared a powerful insight. He explained that theology must never be reduced to a purely abstract discipline or one concerned only with the individual, nor should our concern for the environment be isolated from our relationship with God. There must be integration, a theology that shapes how we relate to God, to one another, and to creation itself. It's not an either or, it's both and. Pope Francis designated 56% of the papal estate for this project. It's not just symbolic, it's a concrete witness to the Church's commitment to ecological responsibility. And it's something that Pope Leo XIV himself is fully backing and supporting. Father Manuel also spoke to us about exciting future plans for the Borgo, plans I'm not yet at liberty to reveal, but ones I'll be sharing once Pope Leo officially inaugurates the project. Before we left, we had a chance to visit part of the papal farm, a quiet reminder of the simplicity and sustainability that the Church continues to model in this space. During our visit, we are also granted access to a deeply sacred and private area of Castel Gandolfo, a place where many popes have come over the centuries to pray, reflect, and wrestle with decisions that would shape the course of the Church. It's even said that Pope Benedict XVI in this very place made the decision to abdicate the papal office, one of the most historic and unexpected moments in Church history in the modern age. Standing there in the silence, you could almost feel the weight of history pressing in. The burden of the papacy, the depth of prayer, and the solitude that often surrounds leadership in the Church. It was a powerful reminder before the public decisions, before the headlines. There's always prayer and often quiet suffering. Castel Gandolfo isn't just a residence. It's a place where popes listen to God, to conscience, and to the needs of the Church. And to top it all off, we were treated to an incredible meal and some local gelato, a sweet end to a day filled with beauty, vision, and the quiet holiness of creation. This visit reminded me the Church isn't just about preserving the past, it's actively building a future, rooted in tradition, but reaching toward renewal. Now, what came next was something I never expected, an exclusive behind-the-scenes tour of the Vatican Secretariat of State, led personally by Monsignor Leo Ruiz, Secretary for the Dicastery for Communication. Now, to be invited into this space, a place few ever get to see, was a tremendous honor. After visiting the Vatican Gardens, we made our way inside, past the Swiss guards, through quiet guarded halls, and up several winding staircases, until we arrived at one of the most important rooms in the Catholic Church. This is the conference room where Cardinal Parolin and the heads of the various dicasteries gathered together to discuss the Church's global affairs. I was given the incredible privilege of sitting at the head of the table, directly opposite of Monsignor Leo. There, I received a detailed and insightful presentation on how the Vatican operates, how decisions are made, how communications things flow, and how the church structures its internal governance. At the end of the presentation, I asked something close to my heart. How can content creators like myself get in touch with the heads of the dicasteries to offer feedback?
So if we have feedback for various dicasteries, say the dicastery of the documents, or just any other dicastery, does this or the online version have the necessary contact information for us to give that feedback to the right people?
The answer was refreshing and practical, and after the meeting I was given direct contact information to several key figures. I fully intend to follow through and share feedback drawn from years of experience online. After we were shown more of the Secretariat of State, including places off limits to the public, we saw the location of Pope Leo XIV's future apartment and learned about the theology behind the artwork that fills these ancient walls, each painting telling a story, each color rich with meaning. We were even shown a private chapel next to the Sistine Chapel where the cardinals pray right before electing a new pope. That space, quiet, hidden, and sacred, left a deep impression. We were then taken to the top of the Secretariat of State, overlooking all of St. Peter's Square. From there we saw the chimney where smoke rises to signal a papal election. And just to the side, the balcony where the Pope appears and delivers the Angelus. So we have an incredible opportunity to be here at the Vatican Secretariat of State with an exclusive look over St. Peter's Square. Take a look at this. Here you have where the Pope celebrates Mass and has his general audiences. And so here you have St. Peter's Square all down there. Of course, the noteworthy obelisk. Over there, Paul VI Audience Hall. And of course, St. Peter's Basilica. And now the entrance to this top area currently through here. And this is the third floor. On the third floor of this building is actually where the papal apartments are. So we just got to see where the Pope is going to stay. And it's, again, a very exclusive look at the Vatican behind the scenes. And it's, quite frankly, an honor to be here and to just take it all in.
Okay. I've got the 16 Pro. I don't know which one you have. No. Okay, yes, mine.
It was breathtaking and humbling. Then came a surprise, a private celebration into the Secretariat. We were welcomed with hospitality, delicious food, and a special gift, rosaries personally set aside by Pope Francis before his death. Pope Francis, who launched this Jubilee, wanted these rosaries to be given to the content creators who would come. It was a powerful gesture, a reminder that our digital work is not forgotten. After one of the most unforgettable days of my life, we made our way back to the hotel and finally some well-earned rest. Now, one of the most unexpected moments of the trip took place on Sunday morning at St. Peter's Basilica. I attended Mass there, celebrated by Cardinal Tagle, a well-known figure in the church and a dynamic speaker. The Basilica was packed, bishops, clergy, laity, and yes, a number of digital missionaries and influencers. Among them present was Bishop Robert Barron, whose presence added to the weight of the moment. Cardinal Tagle's homily was directed squarely at the content creators. He spoke passionately about the influence digital voices have today, encouraging creators to use their platform for truth, not trend chasing. But then something happened that none of us expected. Swiss guards entered at the back of the basilica, and there was suddenly a shift in the room. Pope Leo XIV had just walked in. No announcement, no prior word, just a quiet, spontaneous visit from the Pope himself. He delivered a short, off-the-cuff message to the influencers gathered there. He spoke about the weight of digital missionary responsibility, the need for honesty, and the role of online voices in building, not dividing, the church. And then he did something even more surprising. He walked down the sanctuary and began personally greeting people. My wife actually got to shake his hand. It was one of those moments you don't plan for and you just don't forget. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the amazing people I had the chance to meet and converse with during this trip. I live in Monroe, Louisiana, a small city in northeastern Louisiana. It's not exactly a media hub. In fact, Monroe is ranked as the most dangerous city in the United States, and because of that, people don't typically move here, so you won't find any influencers or content creators nearby. So for me, most interaction with others happens online, through the screen, through comments, through live streams. That's where I build community, and that's why this trip to Rome was so meaningful. I finally got to be in the room with other creators and have real conversations with them, people I usually only interact with through DMs or emails. I interviewed and connected with Lila Rose, Isabel Brown, the Iron Inquisitor, Franco, the Jewish Catholic, and many others. I was able to share my story, hear theirs, and be reminded that though we're scattered across the globe, we're all trying to make sense of the same questions. And for a few days in Rome, we got to do that together. In a way, those real-life conversations are a reminder of why I started all of this in the first place. And of course, I have to also mention all of the patrons who have supported me for so long and made this happen and enabled me to be in the position where I can actually go to Rome and have these conversations and experiences. Thank you to all the patrons. As I look back on my time in Rome, I'm still trying to process the weight of it all. What began as an invitation to attend a Vatican event turned into something far deeper, a series of encounters, conversations, and moments that will stay with me for the rest of my life. To walk the halls of the Secretariat of State, to stand in the very place where a pope decided he would resign, to sit across from the people shaping the church's future, none of that was lost on me. But beyond the privilege, beyond the once-in-a-lifetime experiences, what struck me most was the honesty and urgency of the mission we all share. To speak the truth in a world that is saturated with noise. Whatever you believe, wherever you stand, the digital space is shaping our hearts, minds, and entire generations. That's not theory, it's reality. And the question every content creator must wrestle with is, what am I forming people into? This trip reminded me that influence is never neutral. It's always doing something. It's either building up or tearing down. For a few days in Rome, people from all over the world, creators, thinkers, pastors, communicators, came together to think deeply about what we're building. I don't take that lightly. And while I return home to a small city tucked away in northeastern Louisiana, far from the basilicas and balconies, I bring back with me the same challenge that was offered to us in Rome. Let your words carry weight. Let your platform serve as a purpose. And let your message be rooted in something deeper than clicks. This wasn't just a trip. It was a reminder that what we say matters. And that in the end, our legacy won't be measured in views, but in whether or not we told the truth. Thank you for watching. My name is Michael Lofton, and this has been my journey to the Jubilee for Digital Missionaries.